Good morning, Crossbridge family. It is Wednesday and it's time for your SOAP update. You're continuing in 1 Kings, and at this point you'll notice we didn't take any weekend breaks like we normally do to focus in on a different book or a different kind of chapter. We are plowing straight through 1 Kings together. And what I love about this week is you have done nothing but read about Solomon since last Wednesday. And King Solomon is, again, one of those super interesting characters of the Bible. And last week we talked about how his one request was that he would get wisdom to govern well. And God grants him that prayer and says, not only am I going to give you wisdom, but I'm going to give you everything that you could ask or imagine. And he becomes the wisest and richest king that Israel has ever seen. Over the last couple of chapters, you've realized that fame for how smart he is, how well he can govern, and all of that begins to spread like crazy. And in chapter 10, we have a very unique meeting. We have two of the biggest powerhouses that come together. The Queen of Sheba, who has heard of the massive amount of wisdom, this unbelievable ruler of Israel. She's heard of him. She catches wind of all the things that he brings to the table, and she's like, I don't believe it. No man is this amazing. And so in her curiosity, she shows up. And she shows up with all of this massive amount of gifts for King Solomon, which we find he continues to get from everybody. But the Queen of Sheba tours around Israel with King Solomon. She begins to see all of the things that he's done, how he's revolutionized the entire system of Israel to where they really are the happiest that they have ever been, that their taxes go to what's right, that there truly is a sense that God cares for his people because of who he's put on the throne. And I love when you get into chapter 10 and, she exclaims, everything I heard in verse 6 in my country about your achievements of wisdom is true. I didn't believe it until I arrived here and saw it with my own eyes. In fact, I haven't heard of half of your wisdom. You're way smarter than I thought. And instead of kind of saying, boy, you're the man, she says, how happy your people must be. What a privilege your officials to stand here day after day serving you, listening to your wisdom. Praise the Lord, your God, who delights in you and has placed you on the throne of Israel. Because of the Lord's eternal love for Israel, he has made you king so you can rule with, pick this up, justice and righteousness. Now, if you remember last week when he prays for wisdom, God says, I'm going to give you wisdom so that you can rule with justice. And here, the very thing that the Queen of Sheba picks up on is exactly what God intended. That things are being made right, righteous in the nation of Israel. That justice is being had, and when there is conflict, it's being resolved. When there's injustice, things are being, and they're finding a problem for these solutions. Even the servants should consider a joy to be hanging out with Solomon. Sometimes I wonder for us, if people hear about the stories about what God is doing, would they be curious to visit you, to visit me and say, people talk about how you talk about God. People talk about how your life looks different. And now that I've met you, man, they didn't even give the half of it. Boy, do you love God. For us today, I just wonder, do people see Jesus in the way that we live? With our justice, our righteousness, our love for those around us? Or do we look like any other king around the world, any other person around the world? Crossbridge, I believe we are called to each have stories that allow God to be the center, to be the highlight, and that all who are around us would be blessed because we've been blessed by God. Today, go be a blessing. Crossbridge, I love you. I miss you, and I cannot wait to see you soon. God bless.